Once again, welcome to the Unshakable Foundation meeting of Cocaine Anonymous. This is a main share meeting, and today it's with great pleasure and lots of gratitude that we welcome Derrick G, who's come to share on the topic of we admitted we were powerless for up to 40 minutes, after which we'll open the room up for Q&A. So with that, Derrick, it's over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Isaac, and thank you, Young, for the invite. Forever, my boy, forever. And thank you, everybody else in this meeting doing service. And thank you, CA, for opening your doors to a guy like me. I love y'all, man. I love y'all so much. So, Derrick Alcoholic, what up, my people? What up, y'all? Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi. Let's get it. Let's get it. Man, I'm home. Lucy, I'm home. Let's get it, Hey, man, first of all, like a lot of the stuff I'm going to be speaking about is coming out of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. So if you have one handy, and you want to fact check me, that's fine. Go on and pull it to the side. But see, that book changed my life. When I say changed my life, it took a unemployable criminal and moved him into a way of living beyond his wildest dream. Like nothing ever in my life had that effect on my life. I had some good coaches, growing up. Some good father figures in my life, Not my father, he was there, but not really, And they would tell me little nuggets on life, but it just couldn't stick, I remember as a kid, I was baptized in the church. And I don't know if y'all been to a Southern church over here in the U.S., but man, you talk about some running, some yelling, some clapping, some music, some dancing, some screaming. Yeah, and I got baptized, dunked in that water, and I just felt like it didn't take. Like it didn't take. Like, I mean, maybe y'all need to dunk me again because I just didn't feel nothing coming out of that water, But man, when I stepped into the rooms, y'all sung a song. Y'all shared some messages that spoke right to the core of my being. And I stuck around. Y'all made me stick around. And stuff would happen like for instance, there was this reading we would do before every meeting, and the reading went like this. It said, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such, unfortunately. They're not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. And some of these we bought. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we couldn't. With all the honesty at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go. Absolutely. Remember that we did without cunning, baffling. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. There is one who has all power. That give me chills to say it now. There is one who has all power, y'all. That one is God. May you find him now. Give you a GPS. Find him now. Half measures avail us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked for his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. One, we admitted we were powerless. I love that. We admitted we were powerless. I learned that by heart, y'all. Y'all know why I learned that by heart? I remember there was a meeting in, I got sober in South Texas, Victoria, Texas. Y'all heard of Victoria, Texas? No? No? Okay. Y'all probably heard of some people from Victoria, Texas, right? Y'all heard of like Stone Cold Steve Austin? Austin 3. Yeah, okay, there we go. That's Victoria, Texas. Y'all heard of the Latino singer Selena? Ah, como se ve. Yeah, that's Victoria, Texas. That's what Victoria, Texas looked like. And I got sober there. And I remember I was in a meeting, right? And I read how it works in a meeting. And a guy gets up and picked up his paper because they signed in that meeting at the time, they signed court papers at the beginning of the meeting. So that way, if you want to leave, you can just leave. You know, they were like, if you stay, you stay, you go, you go. So I read how it works and I flew through how it works, reading it. You know, I didn't, just read it. And the guy gets this paper after how it works and leaves. About 2 weeks later, the police show up at the meeting and they're looking for the guy who chaired the meeting, right? They just want to ask him a couple of questions. Well, we're out in the parking lot after the meeting, hanging out, smoking cigarettes, doing what we do. And my sponsor walks over to me and he says, "Hey, D, you heard what they're talking about over there?" And I said, "Nah, what's going on?" He said, "You remember that meeting you read how it works in?" It's like, "Yeah." He said, "That guy that got up and got his paper and left after you read how it works, he left and killed his girlfriend. And he said that he was in the meeting the whole time because that's how he got his court paper signed." Well, I was like, dang, what they gonna do? He said, "We're not in liability," but we told him, no. He got up and left the meeting right after we read how it works. My sponsor looked me dead in my eye. That's when I know this thing was dead serious. He looked me dead in my eye. He said, "Derrick, from this point on, anytime you get the opportunity to read how it works, do it with such passion and such conviction. Or anytime you read anything from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, do it with such passion and conviction that if that's the only thing they heard from that meeting, they'll want to stick around and say, what is this thing about? What is going on?" Maybe they'll stick around and want to see what the rest of the meeting is about. I know I got some people in here who really, really happy to be delivered and with this daily reprieve we have of life giving, that's really excited that today I'm not in the grips of this obsession. I'm not in the grips of this destroying my life through self-destruction. I'm not in the grips of this addiction, this monster, this beast that I could not escape or evade. Today, I'm happy. Even if it's just for this hour, I'm happy. Think about it, y'all. We suffer. Look, I suffered so long, y'all, in the rooms. So long I suffered. Get a little time, go back out. Get a little time, go back out. Get a little time, go back out. Because I never realized what I really was suffering from. I didn't. Y'all did y'all best to share in these meetings. Y'all, bravo. I'm going to have to say bravo. Y'all did y'all best. Y'all did y'all best. But it seemed like I just couldn't get it. I did not realize what I suffered from. I didn't know the trouble I really was in. You feel me? Like, okay, so I had this one bad relationship growing up, right? With this young lady. She was sick. She was a sick girl, I'm sick too. I was really, really sick as well. And the relationship with her sickness and my sickness was what we would call a toxic relationship, right? Like you get two sick people together, kaboom, like Big Bang Theory, all in one, right? I was able to stop dating her, right? Like I was able to quit that toxic relationship, right? I thought this was like that. I thought what we suffered from was kind of like that. Like, oh, I've been in toxic relationships before. I've walked away from them. I'm okay. This is okay. Maybe we are taking this thing a little bit too serious, right? Or serious, depending on how you hear, you know, this ain't that. This ain't that. I thought y'all was really going to teach me how to stop picking up that first one, right? And that's what this all was about. This ain't that. This ain't that. Think about what we suffer from, y'all. We suffer from an illness that is so abnormal. Our addiction is so abnormal that many people can't understand it, right? For instance, there's little kids that get addicted to video games, right? And you can set a certain time for them to play the game, and okay, I can play the game at this time. I'll play the game at this time. And it won't destroy their lives, right? But we suffer from an addiction that once we start the first one, we can't stop. That's heartbreaking. Think about it. You see a guy walk into the kitchen and he puts his hand over the flame of the fire, right? And he's burning everything on that hand. And you tell him, bro, back up. Stop doing that. And he says, okay, but I can't stop. And you like, bro, you burning the skin off your hand, man. Quit it. Move. And he steps to the side, but he just positions himself only to keep his hand on the stove because he can't stop putting his hand on the stove. Right? And you come back 2 days later, 3 days later, a week later. Bro, don't you got to go pick up your kids? I can't stop putting my hand on the stove. Bro, don't you got to go to work? I can't stop. I can't move I can't. And then finally, you get him to stop stop putting his hand on the stove, right? And he's sitting down in the living room, and y'all watching a football game, right? And you say, bro, did you see that? No. Oh man, I missed it. What are you thinking about, bro? I'm thinking about going in there and putting my hand on that stove, bro. And I know that sounds funny, right? It sounds funny, but those who have been through the ringer know what I'm talking about. Those who have really suffered this thing know exactly what I'm talking about. And then I don't want to talk about insanity. Like, think about the insanity of that, right? Bear with me. Go somewhere with me. Think of insanity as a mob boss, a big mob boss, right? And insanity will say, I ain't heard from that boy Rob in a long time, or Melissa, Lucy, I ain't heard from them in a long time. Y'all go get them and bring them back to me, And he'll send these 3 goons out there, right? And it'll start with something like, obsession. Y'all, I will obsess about something for days. Women, money, cars, alcohol. I'll obsess about it for days. I'll obsess about something that could have happened for 45 seconds, right? It could have just happened for 45 seconds. For 48 hours. I will obsess about it. You know? One of our steps talks about meditation. I didn't know nothing about meditation, but I know about premeditation, because I will premeditate on somebody for 48 hours. Well, I know what I'm going to do to you next time I see you. Right? I'll obsess like that. And then the obsession, or call his boy delusion over the bottom, right? And delusion is me lying to myself and not even knowing I'm lying to myself, right? So he'll say something like, oh, D, you can have a drink, bro. Ain't nobody gonna know, bro. Like, go on and sneak over there and do your thing. Go on and sneak over there and ain't nobody gonna know you took that first one. No. And then I'll see others doing it and say, well, if they can do it, I can do it. The illusion of this lie. I see it. And next thing I know, all three of them done brought me back to the mob boss of insanity. See, that's abnormal, y'all. Ain't nothing normal about that. Nothing. But that's what I suffer from. See, we agnostics on page 44 kicks us off with this line right here. It says, in the preceding chapters, you have learned something about alcoholism. What have you learned about what you suffer from? What have you learned about what you suffer from? Because if you haven't learned what you suffered from, you're going to continue to suffer. You're going to continue to suffer. See, if you got this thing I got, and you suffer like I suffer, there's only one solution. There's only one. I know. There's only one solution. A deep and effective spiritual experience with a God of your understanding. That's the only thing. Every one of our 12 steps can be summed up in that first statement I said. We admitted we were powerless. How did I form this relationship with God I have today? Well, I was suicidal. July 17, 2020, that was supposed to be my death date. That was the date I decided that I was going to take my life and end this thing altogether. I was sick and tired of living. I picked up that first one and I said, this will be the courage I need to end it all. I was dry firing my trusted beloved AK-47 in the roof of my mind. See, that was my higher power for a long time. High-powered rifle. Go look at that. I was playing chicken with 18-wheelers on Highway 59 in the hometown of como se ve. I slept in a park, Riverside Park. And that's when something happened. About 3 o'clock in the morning, God sent a wood rat to rip through my arm. A good old Texas wood rat. It left a scar on my arm deeper than the tattoos I have on my arm. And the next day I went to a meeting, and it's almost like God paralyzed. See, I couldn't have done this without God. God paralyzed the liar in me long enough for me to say, I need some help, y'all. I need some help. I need some help. And my sponsor moseyed on over to me. My sponsor, he wore a cowboy hat, belt buckle, cowboy boots, moseyed on over to me. And he looks at me and he said, hey, Derrick. What up, Brian? Bet you didn't know that Mickey Mouse could get that violent, did you? I'm like, bro, come on, man. It just happened last night. He said, well, rats are rats. That's what happens, He said, but look, I'm going to tell you this, man. You are just too sick. If you're here today, you are just too sick. You're sick, man. Ma'am, you're just too sick. You too sick to rely on the fellowship of Cocaine Anonymous or Alcohol Anonymous or any Anonymous to keep you from not picking up the first drink or the first one or the first whatever. You too sick. Just too sick. You must, and yeah, I'm saying it, you must go through this program as it's outlined in the text, in the big book. And you must connect with a God, the one with all power of your understanding. Or you will die from this fatal illness, and it won't be what you think it's going to look like. I looked at my sponsor, Brian, and Brian passed in October of 2023. I looked at Brian and I said, will you take me? He said, yeah. And it's almost like when I was ready. Look, I had the gift of desperation when I first met y'all, right? And they said, you need the gift of desperation. I had that. That kept me coming back. But that day, I was given another gift. It was the gift of being ready. And with the gift of desperation and the gift of being ready, I looked at that first step. And I realized what that first step means to me. And this came to me through what I call a God thought. Derrick, you got one problem. If you got this thing you got one problem. That one problem is lack of power. I did not have the power to not pick up the first one. I just didn't have it. And see, lack of power wasn't always my dilemma, my problem. It wasn't always my problem. When I was out there partying and kicking it and living life on self-will, I didn't care I had lack of power. I didn't care that I was keeping my sister up all night because she worried if I was in the hospital or in the jail or dead. I didn't care about that. I didn't care about the children that were seeing us cut up, cook cocaine, sell coke. I didn't care about the kids that were in the house watching us do that. I didn't care about them kids. I didn't care I was warping their lives for the rest of their lives. I didn't care about that. I didn't care about my son telling me, Dad, if you just wouldn't drink, maybe you wouldn't go to jail. I didn't care about that. But see, when all those consequences started to add up, when I started to get gun charges and I'm standing in front of a judge that's saying something that I thought only God could do, which was give me life. And I wanted to stop. That's when lack of power became my problem. It's only a problem when I want to do something. And maybe you had that same experience. I had moral and philosophical convictions galore. What were some of them? Well, do unto others as you have them do unto you. I couldn't live up to it because let you cross me. Told you I was premeditated. Let you cross me. You know, be kind to others. Yeah, if I like you. If I don't like you, I don't mind you knowing I don't like you. I don't mind that at all. The golden rule. It seemed like my golden rule was that, that, what is it? Gold plated is not real gold. It just kind of look gold, but it's not the real deal, You don't want to wear it in the rain type golden rule, I'm going to give you another cold look. These 12 steps are more than philosophical convictions. I could not live up to them on my own power. Lack of power is my dilemma. I needed a power greater than myself. Obviously, right? I mean, look at how I destroyed my life. The boy homeless, the unemployable. I needed a power greater than myself that could solve all my problems. Obvious. But where was I to find that? In step 2, I saw it in your eyes. Y'all would share the destruction of y'all life. And y'all would come in here looking fresh. Fresh. Y'all had nice cars. Y'all had great jobs. And for y'all to say I was homeless and unemployable, but now I'm a lawyer. Oh man, wow. How did that happen? Y'all would say stuff like I was a dope fiend on the corner, selling everything I could. I was 350 pounds and I went down to 180 pounds. And it wasn't for just using the drugs. It was because I was running back and forth to the pawn shop with all my stuff. Y'all would say stuff like that. And I would be like, how you doing? How do you go from that to living the life of your wildest dreams? I went through this 12-step process. Oh, okay. That's how I came to believe. Through y'all. Y'all shared that y'all had tried everything on your own power. Y'all tried self-sufficiency at its finest and failed miserably. Then the God idea worked for y'all. Okay. And then that third step came to believe, made a decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God. I didn't have the power to do that. All I heard was, made a decision to turn my addiction and my alcoholism over to the care of God. And that ain't what that step said. See, the key turning point in that step is care. See, that's when you need the one with all power in your corner. Because I need to know that the one with all power, the most powerful force in the universe, cares about a dude like me. When this country, this world seemed to not give a flip about what was going on to me, I needed to know something powerful cared about me. When I felt like my family didn't care whether I lived or died, I needed to know something powerful cared whether I lived or died. And that God thought came to me and it said, Derrick, you're going to carry this message. Huh? Yeah, you're going to carry this message. Now, you can carry this message full of energy, hanging out with your people. What up, my people? Wi-Fi in the screen, having a good time. Or you can do it as a paraplegic from a hospital bed. But you're going to carry this message. Which one you want to do? Oh, let's Wi-Fi. Let's Wi-Fi. Let me at least move around. Yeah, come on. Okay. So I had to fire my old employer, being self-employed. And I had a new employer after that point. And that new employer was all powerful. I needed some all powerful stuff in my life. And my sponsor looked at me and said, you want to keep that feeling you got permanently? Yeah. Pick up a pen and let's get busy. So I started writing. I started writing out resentments, y'all. And one of the resentments I had was against the police. Y'all know it. I don't know if y'all know about the community I grew up in, but we do not like the police. Okay, let me just say that, matter of fact, NWA had some songs about how much we did not like the police. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I remember my sponsor at the fifth step, sitting across the table from me. He said, hey, D, did you ever work on your job and you wanted a day on your job where you could just play on your phone all day? I said, yeah. He said, what about you just wanted to goof off and maybe kick your feet up? Did you want days like that at work? Yeah. He said, you don't think the police want days like that too, bro? It was, again, at the kitchen table. It was an infinite, all-powerful God. And across the table was the good old boy. Cowboy hat, belt buckle, cowboy boots. And the boy from the hood. At the kitchen table of this fellowship right here, we all sitting in. We normally people who wouldn't mix. We wouldn't miss. But here it is. God speaking through him to me, to the God in me. And the God in me is receiving what he is speaking through to me. And I'm learning how to tune out that voice that would say, oh, just slap that dude in his mouth. And listen to that voice that would say, all right, if you slap that dude in his mouth, I'm going to slap you in your mouth. like that part, you know? And he was like, there's a spiritual text that says, no greater love than this, that a man lay down his life for a friend. He said every day all over the world, police officers put on that uniform and they put their lives in danger all over the world, Derrick. They just want to go home. They just want to go home to their families. They just want to. So, Derrick, I challenge you to look at them as friends. It broke my heart. I never looked at the police as friends. I challenge you to look at them as friends, bro. And you're amends to them. How about when they pull you over, they have the best stop they ever had in their entire lives when they pull you over, Derrick? How about that, bro? How about that, man? And look, if they spiritually sick, if they one of them real spiritually sick ones, because y'all know some of them spiritually sick, right? Y'all know some police officers are spiritually sick. Better for you, Derrick, because guess what you got now? You got 12 principles you can practice on him, right? Better for you. 12 principles that you can practice on him. Look, prayer meditation, 10. I continue. Look, 10, 11, and 12 says this to me, these three words, right? Continue to improve practice. Continue to improve practice. I run that inventory all day. I run that inventory all day. Derrick, why is this bothering you, bro? Like, why is what they're doing affecting you, bro? I've never had a tool like that. Anything you did would always affect me, right? And I would always lash out. But y'all had read some promises that really got to my core. Them 10-step promises that said, and we have ceased fighting anything or anyone. I want it. How do y'all stop fighting? Y'all let the one with all power fight for y'all. Because y'all didn't have the power to not fight. Y'all didn't have the power to not argue. Y'all didn't have the power to not fuss. Y'all didn't have the power to not cuss that son of a gun out. you know? Y'all faith in the one with all power increased, Real quick, there's this sponsor with these 12 sponsees, right? And one of these 12 sponsees said, how many times should we forgive people, sponsor? And this great sponsor looked at him and said, you should forgive them 70 times 7. And they looked and said, 70 times 7? I could do 70 times 3, but 70 times 7? You're going to have to increase our faith. I never thought forgiving somebody was a faith-increasing exercise. Step 11, meditate. Look, let me tell you this. So there's these 2 Buddhist monks that walk down my neighborhood, right? They see me coming outside. They like, oh, here he comes. Nah, they don't trip like that. But I think they be tripping like that because I bother them. I asked those men, hey, and they gave me something to meditate on. I asked them, what's your conception of God? And they looked at me like, and I was like, oh, my bad. Y'all don't believe in God? Forgive me. I don't got no home training, y'all. I'm sorry. Forgive me. He was like, no, it's not that we don't believe in God. It's just that we felt like he was going to pull us in a conversation that was going to last an eternity. I was like, what? Y'all know, y'all ever seen the movies where the Buddhist monks will hit you and your spirit will leave your body? That's what the boys hit me and my spirit left my body. This boy said this. He said, Derrick, if I'm going to tell you my conception of God, that means I got to compare God to something, right? And I was like, that's fair. Yeah. He was like, so to say God is good means I would have to compare God to being something bad, right? Well, yeah. He said, and in my belief, if we talking about God, I'll wrap it up, I promise. In my belief, if we talking about God, bad don't have no place in the conversation at all. If we talking about God. Step 12. What I didn't realize when I first came in here was this. I didn't realize that God, the one with all power, knew that I could do step 12. So, yeah, if you here today, it wasn't because you don't use dope right or use a drink right. It ain't because of that. You are here because God knows you can carry the message of a spiritual awakening to somebody who they kids can't get their attention. You can carry the message to a person who their parents can't even get it through to them. You can. You can. And practice these principles in all your affairs. That means you got to live this thing. This ain't nothing we just check off. We got to live this every day. So my question to you, are y'all coming to practice today? Adele, you coming to practice? Babe, you coming to practice? Howard, Kathy, y'all coming to practice today? Yeah, y'all coming to practice? And look, if you're thinking about it, I beg you, hey, join us. Because we shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit. And you will surely meet some of us as you trudge this road to happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Thanks for letting me be of service, y'all.
Yeah, cheers, Isaac, for sharing, and thank you, Derrick, for that absolutely wonderful message, mate. I was hooked right from the beginning. Your energy, your humility, just amazing. I really related to it all, but things that really stuck out for me was, when you're talking about the obsession, and like you can have this 15-second conversation or this 15-second incident, and then in your head it replays for like 24 hours, 48 hours. I should have said this, I was going to do that, blah, 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 blah. And I've got the step 10 practices, yeah. I turn to God, I pray, I speak to it with me sponsor. If I'm owing amends, hopefully I don't, I'll make it, and then I'll go and help someone else. And about 10 minutes later, I'm like, but I definitely should have said this. Do you know what I mean? Do you have a practice, that sort of minimizes how much time agnosticism plays in your mind when the obsessive thoughts come in the form of, you want to be right or you don't want to be discredited or anything. And thanks again, Derrick. It was absolutely wonderful. Cheers.
Right back at you, Mike. Yeah, and again, it's that repeat. That repeat. That's the only thing. I don't have the power not to obsess, and that's why, again, I could just go to God with it again. I go to God with it again. That's that practice. Go to God with it again. Okay, I'm still thinking about like, God, okay, maybe I need to quickly turn to help somebody right now. That's another suggestion we give. Okay, quickly turn. Who can I help? Let me call that boy Babe up. See what Babe got going on real quick. Let me call Forever Young up. Let's see what he got going on, Actually live what they said to do. Thanks. That was a great question. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Derrick.
Thank you, Michael. Great question. Next up, we have Howard. Would you like to come in?
Sure, why not? My name is Howard Eber, and I am a grateful alcoholic. Derrick, you got a lot of potential. I see if you keep working at this thing, this could really be a thing for you, man. So keep at it. It's an honor to know you. peace, man. Great job.
Man, I love you, Howard, and I know where you stay, so I can come
What's
see
up?
you.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up?
I'd rather hear from your better half, Howard.
Thanks, Howard. Everly, would you like to come in with your question?
Thanks, Young. Everly, alcoholic and addict. Hey, Derrick. So I just had a question on how you are, when you go through the book, either with sponsees or going through your meditation practice, do you read like a paragraph at a time and meditate on it in the morning, or do you take your sponsees through it line by line? I'm just curious on how you take others through the work and then how you also continue your spiritual program, and kind of building off of that, because obviously you work a pretty good program if you got that spiritual, it's oozing out all over you in a good way. So just curious.
Thanks, Everly. So of course, when I'm going through the process, we go line by line. When I have a sponsee in the very first stages who are like me, don't know anything about meditation, yes, of course, that the pages, 80, 80, 85, 80, 86, 80, those things are key and pivotal to me. 86, 87, 88, that whole section there. And we read that together. And we go with that review, and that's their first meditations. And that's how I started meditating, with those pages. I didn't know how to meditate, but the big book clearly gives you a meditation you could do every single day. Clearly. I didn't even know that was a meditation. I thought it was like a step 10 practice or something like that. But if you really read it line by line and study it, you'll see it's a meditation. And also, me personally, now where I'm at in my recovery, I do several meditations. One meditation I do is I'll set a timer. It started with 2 minutes. I started with 2 minutes now. And I'll set a timer and I'll sit and just focus on the back of my eyelids. Sit in the quiet, focus on the back of my eyelids. And every time a thought would come up, like, oh, you need to check your TikTok. Oh, you need to check your bank account. Oh, did so-and-so call you back last night? Check your phone. Where your phone at? I wouldn't judge it. I wouldn't say, oh, no, I'm not supposed to be thinking. I'm supposed to be. No, I just say, I'm focusing on the back of my eyelids, and return to focusing on the back of my eyelids. And I do that for 2 minutes. Now I'm up to about 15 minutes, just sitting, focusing on the back of my eyelids. And in that time, I'm safe. I'm not worried. I'm not feeling threatened by anything. And it's also teaching me how these thoughts will come, and I don't have to respond to them. That's the thing, And then there's other methods. Like I do this breathing meditation, and I actually got it from the Hebrew culture that believes that the closest thing that we could say to God's name is when we breathe in and we breathe out. And I do that to remind me throughout the day, whether I know it or not, whether I'm aware of it or not, I'm constantly being connected to God. I'm constantly trying to utter the name of God throughout the entire day. So I do that one as well, a breathing meditation to keep me centered. So yeah, it kind of depends. I'll mix it up so I won't get stagnant, or I won't feel like it's a chore, So that's my meditation practices. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Next up, we have Martin. Would you like to come in?
Thank you, Isaac, for your service and everyone else in the background. My name is Martin. I'm very grateful, recovered addict and alcoholic, and I didn't have to drink or drug today, thanks to God. As I understand him, and Derrick, I identified an awful lot with you. I was in the rooms for, I've been in 20 years, and, I was sitting in rooms with people with untreated alcoholism, and I didn't know what was wrong with me until I was took through this beautiful book, and I'm coming up in 6 months, and the obsession left me on the third week when I was doing my step 4. So my question for you is, in your early days, what helped you recognize yourself, well, before it even ran riot, and what helped you recognize it, and what did you do to improve your conscious contact with God, so I don't go into self-will so much?
Prayer and meditation. That was the biggest key. Like, again, I don't have the power not to go into self-will. Like, when I admitted I was powerless, like today, that is the most key pivotal thing in my life. I'm just as powerless today as I was on July 18th of 2020. The only thing is I know where the power lies. I go to the one with all power and allow him to do it. And if I'm going to get to know that power, I have to really, really meditate and pray. I remember, like, Bill had a question that came to him in the book, right? Bill's question was, why don't you choose your own conception of God? Right? Then Fitzmayo had a question that had him fall out the bed. And that question was, who are you to say that there is no God? Well, the question that hit me and had to hit me square in my face was, Derrick, you think you know God? And I was like, yeah, I grew up in church. Like I said, I got baptized, And then the question after that was, how can you say you know the infinite? I don't even know what number comes before infinity. So how can I say I know the infinite power, the infinite love of an infinite God? That right there opened my meditation up. It opened my prayer up. It opened me up to see that God is literally everything. He's small enough to fit in between the molecules of an atom. Ask a cancer patient who got healed from cancer. Ask them. Ain't God small enough to fit through a molecule of an atom? And he's big enough, so big, this universe can't contain him. Ask that comet that missed the Earth a couple of years ago completely, that everybody thought was going to hit the Earth. That's God. And if I keep realizing that God is everything, from the molecule to the infinite of the universe, my imagination can't even imagine what infinite is. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin, for your question. We've got 3 hands up and not loads of time left, so we're going to drop question time to a minute apiece, try and fit everyone in. Danny, you're up next.
Thanks, Isaac. My name's Danny. I'm an addict. And Derrick, thanks so much. Amazing. Energy was really, really amazing. So good to hear you. My question for you is, you spoke about turning your addiction and alcoholism over to the care of God, and that's certainly been my experience. That, it was easy for God to take the obsession, but then I find throughout my time that I'm still trying to control and manage other areas of my life. How has that been revealed to you over your time in recovery? How have these things been shown to you throughout your time? Thanks, mate.
Okay, so real quick, one of the ways was, for instance, the thought came to me that, Derrick, in this new life, bro, keep your hands to yourself. That's how we cease fighting. How we cease fighting, we let God do it for us. Example, I got sued for $28,000 for grabbing a dude by his shoulders and shaking him, right? And the anxiety that I felt the night before court, pacing the floor, not knowing what to do, how it was going to turn out. God telling me, Derrick, you're trying to figure out this thing, and you are so far off as the Earth is from Pluto. That's how far you off on how I'm going to fix this thing. Go to court, do a full-on 9-step amends, because I'm living this thing. When I'm making amends, I'm living amends, so I'm doing a full-on 9-step amends, saying the problems I did, the choices I made, faith with action, that's what y'all taught me. And the charges was dropped down to $1,500. See, that's what, in those situations like that, my faith increased. okay, God's got my back. He's got my back. So thanks for that question.
Beautiful question. Thanks, Danny. Lee, your question's up next. Would you like to come in?
Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Derrick. That was amazing, that, mate. I'm just wanting to ask about like I'm praying on the morning and on the night, but I don't feel like I'm doing it properly. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't think I think I'm asking for the wrong things and stuff. I was just wondering what your views are on it. Thank you, mate.
Words. And when it comes to my prayers, like the best prayer I can pray is thy will be done. You know, God knows my heart. God knows what I need, but it's still his will, you know, is the supersede of my life. You know, I remember I got to a point like looking at how much my self-will destroyed my life and really looking at how bad I've ran my life into the ground that I got to a point to where I said, God, I don't want nothing you don't want from me. Whatever you want for me, that's what I want. Whatever a spiritual life to you looks like for Derrick, that's what I want to live, you know, and just let God direct and guide me from there. You know, sometimes I can hear it clear. Sometimes not so much. I really have to pause and take it easy. But again, it's seeking God. I go from self-reliance to God reliance, and it's about the seeking for me. Thanks.
Beautiful. Thanks for your question, Lee. Hugh, would you like to come in, take us out?
Yeah, cheers, Isaac. Yeah, Hugh, Addict. Thanks, Derrick. Great share, mate. Yeah, beautiful energy. Um, yeah, I like what you said. I felt the same around when I realized God had equipped me to do this for someone else. That was the only way I can do it for me. I don't have that drive to do it myself. But you spoke about forgiveness, and I'm wondering when you need to have self-forgiveness, how does that tie into your mission that God's given you? That awareness of that, how does that tie to your self-forgiveness?
Well, in that fourth step, I realized like my whole time that who I really was. And I fell in love with this guy right here. You know, I love the alcoholic addict that I am. I love that because he was just trying to do the best he could to keep me alive in those moments where I didn't know how to manage this life. Like he was doing everything. Like, bro, let's just drink. Let's just drink. Let's just like, bro, let's just use this, bro. Let's just use like to keep me alive. And I love him for that. But I don't have to live like that no more. So he'll still come around like, Derrick, let's go get a drink. And I thank him. Thank you, bro. But we just don't live like that no more, bro. You know? Thanks for letting me share. I love y'all, man. I love y'all so much.